Hello my dear friends of Symphonic Brass Music, and welcome to not quite a ranking but a list of stuff that I think are overrated in studios and talk about studios. If you read in forums and talk to people, these are things that are talked about so much and it's so much hassle around them, and I think they just are not that important. It's not that massive difference compared to other stuff which is not talked about as much, and I'm going to talk about in the next video. So if you want to see that, hit that subscribe button, and if you want to see me mix something live and get notified, hit the bell as well. And if you have comments, leave them down in the description below. Anyway, what are the 5 things I think are totally overrated in the studio? And I know some of these are very controversial. And if you like, write it down in the comments what you think about my list. If I forgot something, or something is actually important and I think it's not, let me know down below. Be kind. So first thing on my list are these bastards, preamps. I don't think preamps matter that much. And why am I saying that? I'm not only saying this because I don't have any Neve or something really high pricey, but I listen to various preamp shootouts, blind testing, and if I can't find this article on Sound on Sound, I'm going to put the link in the description below. There is actually a piano recording with 3 different mics through, I guess it's 8 preamps, the same preamps with 3 different mics, labeled, but shuffled around. So A is not A with the second mic, and it's not A in the third mic, so you can't tell. You have to check on their website the list. And yes, there is a difference. Absolutely, I'm not saying there's no difference in mic pre's, but does it matter? Not really. I mean, I have one preamp back here, the Focusrite, which is a big crap, but it cost me like €200 when I bought it new, so it's a really cheap one. It has a noise floor, which is a bit higher, obviously, than the RME, or, yeah, okay, these are tubes that don't talk about this, but if you get it in a sweet spot, you can record a band, it's 8 channels, but you can record a drum set or whatever through these preamps and no one will tell afterwards. So I think preamps are not that important as they are talked about. I'm not saying they are totally unimportant. And there are modules absolutely worth the money. I would love to have 1073s because they do something a little bit I like and I would like to have on my stuff and so on. And I pick preamps for various things because they do stuff differently, and that's totally fine. And I'm totally with it. But doesn't matter not that much. And this is why I think preamps are overrated. Second thing overrated are converters. I mean, obviously, it makes sense to have a stable, reliable audio interface with a good converter in it. Absolutely. But I don't know the exact numbers, but I can think it's not fitting on one hand how many companies there are in the world building the actual converter chips. So, but I'm actually talking about the whole ADDA thing. Yes, there are cheap solutions, and yes, there are more pricey solutions, which might make a difference in terms of jitter, in terms of clock, oversampling, all that jazz happening in high-price converters like Burl, RME, Vice, whatever there is on the market, compared to Behringer, Focusrite, whatever there is on the cheap side. But again, does it matter? Not that much. Not that much. And so I think it's overrated in terms of how people talk about converters. And I'm not specifically talking about the hi-fi scene, because this is a whole different level of talking about converters, which is ridiculous in my eyes. There are people saying that you can only listen to one type of music on one specific converter. Sorry, no. I mean, do I hear a difference in blind testing? Well, I don't know. I listened to some tests back in the day when I was working at home, but I don't know if I really heard it or if it's sort of placebo. You want to hear stuff that's not there. I don't know. I think it's overrated. And the third thing, staying at hi-fi, are cables. And I think cables are so overrated. They are so overrated. I mean, obviously it depends. If you have an instrument cable, like from a guitar to an amp, that's important to have it in good shape and have a proper cable, because you're working with high impedance, low signal stuff. That's absolutely okay if you spend a fair bit of money on that. If you should spend hundreds of money for 1 meter of instrument cable, I think no. But I would not go for the own brands in terms of instrument cable. But if we're talking about XLR, speaker cables, MIDI cables, obviously power supply, power cables, obviously. If you have something proper, I would say not the cheapest solution ever, but something proper, then that's fine. And I think the only difference is the plug. And if you have a proper plug, which is soldered properly and made nice, then that's totally fine. And that's it. All my cables are cardial, and my multicores are summer cables, simply because the summer cables are more flexible than the cardials. I don't hear a difference, and I don't want to hear a difference. That doesn't simply matter. If it's soldered the wrong way, I solder it, and that's just wrong, and I need to do it again properly. But if they're soldered properly, that's just copper. It's just a string of copper. There's no difference whatsoever. Yeah, instrument cable is something different. The fourth thing on my list, which I think is overrated, which is important but overrated, are plugins. I think it doesn't really matter which plugins you're using. If you're using Slate, if you're using UAD, if you're using Isotope, if you're using Fab, what's that? What's the company? Fab Filter. It's a Fab Filter. I guess it's Fab Filter. I don't know. Whatever waves, whatever there is on the market, it just doesn't matter if you come to the final product is awesome. If your mix is awesome, it doesn't matter which emulation of an 1176 you're using. It doesn't even matter if you're using an emulation of the 1176. If you just need a compressor and you find a compressor working for you, well, that's fine. And if you're mixing with stock plugins, that's totally fine. Is there a bit more into it in these emulation thingies? Absolutely. I'm totally with it. And I actually made a comparison test by myself the other day, going through all the various emulations I have on the Slate plugins, on the Slate VMR. And yes, there's a difference. And some work for some stuff and others don't, and back and forth. I mean, I would not use a Waves R-Vox on a bass drop, on a kick drop. It simply is the wrong compressor for it, because there are not that many parameters I can change. But I can compress a kick drum with a C1, which is the standard Waves one. I can do it with a Pro Tools own compressor. And I think a slightly bit better is the distressor plugin I have from Slate. But does it matter if it's that distressor? If it's a proper setup stock compressor? No, it doesn't matter. And no one will tell. And so I think the choice of plugins is absolutely overrated, because there are so many, and just go with what you have and what works the best for you. So going by user interface is totally fine by me. And I think you should not feel guilty by having only the Waves 1170. Is there a Waves 1176? I think. CLA. Don't know. If you have that 1176 and someone else is coming around and saying, well, you need to have the U80. I think no. Absolutely no. If you have a plugin that works for you, and I don't know why I stick with compressors, that's totally fine. And last but not least, there's something controversial. You're gonna might hit me hard in the comments. Sample rate. I think sample rates are overrated. Yeah, a bit of a pun there. Anyway, I work in 44.1 kilohertz on 24-bit input and output. Only if I master something that's 16-bit and work in 32-bit floats internally. So, but I'm not talking about bit rates, I'm talking about sample rates. I think 44.1 for music and 48 for video stuff is totally fine. Because that's the final medium. That's the absolute final medium. And I did some recordings in 88.2. I did something in 128, and I didn't really hear a difference. I mean, I'm now going to my 40s, slowly but surely, so my ears might not be the best, specifically in high frequencies, but who is? I mean, I'm not the oldest person alive, so who cares? Who seriously cares? And if you're listening on smartphones and earplugs and Bluetooth headsets or Bluetooth headphones and whatnot, it doesn't matter. It simply doesn't matter. And to sort of quote a really high regarded music producer, I won't tell the name because I'm not quite sure if it's a quote, something someone told me he said is, and it's a really big studio in the world, one of the high regarded studios in the world. He said we're working 44.1 because everything else is a waste of disk space. And that's the way I keep it. I think it's not important to record everything on a higher sample rate because you have to sample it down anyway. I mean, if you send out a mix through WhatsApp, that's going to be compressed by WhatsApp anyway. And WhatsApp going to shout on you if it's not 44.1 kilohertz. So you have to sample it down anyway. So why don't you do it in the first place? I think sample rate is overrated. There you go. It's just my opinion. It's just my humble opinion. If you have a different opinion, you can leave it down below in the comments. And if you want to know my 5 most underrated things in recording studio, hit that subscribe button. I will let you know. Also, I have a new Patreon level system made up. There are mix reviews, one-on-one mix content. There's discounts on my services. There's a Facebook group as well where we can get together, make a bit of a community. So be sure to check that out. Thanks very much for watching. See you soon. Bye.